Number 10. The Flash. One of the most recognizable superheroes in pop culture, the Flash is perhaps one of the fastest beings in DC Comics. While Barry Allen is the most well-known iteration of the character in the comics, there are many other versions, but Wally West is arguably faster than the former as the Scarlet Speeder. In 2009's The Flash, the Human Race comic series, West's version of the Flash reached something called trans-time velocity, which exceeded any speed theoretically possible in science. As a speedster, the Flash can easily travel well beyond the speed of light, which gives him the ability to time travel. This makes the character one of the most potent DC superheroes who can manipulate time to his advantage if need be. The ability to do this is indeed extremely powerful, but he isn't the hardest hitter nor the most durable. So while he is worth mentioning, he is not really powerful enough to make it any higher compared to others on this list. Number 9. Martian Manhunter. I think it's incredibly easy to overlook Martian Manhunter's incredible capabilities. Yes, he is more well known for being a telepath and a shapeshifter, but this guy packs a hell of a punch with the Martian abilities of phasing, Martian vision, and density alteration. Now, his probably most powerful form was when he became Furnace, completely negating his weakness for fire. But Furnace was a villain and therefore cannot be on this list. But in DC 1 Million, we get a John Johns who leads a war against Darkseid and gets him to surrender to the Source Wall, becoming trapped inside of it. The Source Wall in return gave John one wish. His wish was to become one with Mars, meaning John became a living planet while maintaining his multiversal telepathy and his genius intelligence. We don't get to see much of this version of John, but we can guess a lot of things about this version. Firstly, his weakness to fire is probably non-existent, because I mean, people gotta make fire on the planet, you know? We can probably assume John keeps his other Martian abilities to a degree as well, and there's also the possibility that the passage of time has increased those natural abilities considering he's defeated Darkseid. We can also assume he would now also have the powers that usually come with being a living planet, like weather manipulation and control of the elements. He can control the sands of Mars to an incredible degree too, so there's that as well.
Number 8. The Superman monster. Frankenstein, but make it Superman. There are lots of retellings of classic tales when we look into the realm of Elseworlds, and the story of Frankenstein is not one that is left untouched. Actually, I feel like this story gets interpreted a few times throughout the Elseworlds stories. I feel like I've seen at least 3 different versions of Frankenstein retold in Elseworlds. I still have yet to see Dr. Seuss retellings though in the world of DC, which are some classic kids tales that do eke their way surprisingly into Marvel at times. In the Superman monster, Lex Luthor takes the role of creator and Superman ends up as his monster. You might think this sounds familiar considering it's also kind of the premise for the main continuity origin story of Bizarro, but this creation, while starting out similar to Bizarro, eventually goes full-on hero and full-on Superman by the end of it. That means in this story of Frankenstein, the creator ends up the monster, while the monster ends up the hero. What a twist. Number 7. Justice Riders. Because it's an inevitability that at some point, we have to turn to the Wild West for inspiration when it comes to an Elseworlds story. We've gotta go there at some point. And so we have Justice Riders. Justice Riders reimagines the DC universe as existing during the time of the Wild West and adapts the characters to kind of fit their surroundings somewhat. As such, Wonder Woman becomes a Texan-sounding sheriff and Martian Manhunter gets to sport a poncho and a cowboy hat. Which honestly, this is one you might want to check out just for that, because that's great. This is the Wild West, baby. There are also plenty of shootouts and bar brawls, some with cyborg enemies involved. As ridiculous as this premise is, I will say it's executed well and it also looks fantastic, so. Number 6. The Reaching Hand. Honestly, what a strange story this one is. It features Batman as an occult detective trying to solve the mystery of Elongated Man's death. Unfortunately, it seems as though Elongated Man wasn't alone in his body, and there was a force of darkness within him who continues to seek to spread gloom and doom wherever it can. This story features a lot of restless nights for Bruce as well, and unfortunately, he ends up too late to save Jimmy Olsen. Not Jimmy Olsen, who ends up brutally murdered by Swirly. At least that's what it looks like to me. He's just head down in the toilet and they're like, he's been murdered. Or he was just being mistreated by the other staff at his workplace, but no, he's dead. Death by Swirly. Bruce also is too late to save his friends or Gotham in the end, at least that's what's implied. This one ends pretty bleakly, so yeah. Also, this is back from when we had like Elseworlds, like giant sizes, so there would be like a bunch of short stories in there. Kinda like What If, and I like that style. More stories though than What If, because those are normally 2. Sometimes only 1. Number 5. Elseworlds' finest, Supergirl / Batgirl. You can't go wrong with a jacked Joker when it comes to weird, multiversal stories. Looking real jacked, baby! Elseworlds' finest is weird but also kind of cool. It focuses on Barbara Gordon and Kara Zor-El, Batgirl and Supergirl respectively, who are guardians of Gotham and Metropolis, as in this world, there was never a Batman or a Superman. The two of them team up to take on the manipulative and traitorous Lex Luthor, and as I said, a really swole version of the Joker. It's a strange one, but it's also kind of a great one. Number 4. Batman / the Demon, a tragedy. In this Elseworlds story we get to explore a horrifying fantastical world where magic exists. Here, Bruce Wayne is not the Batman, instead suffering from an allergy to moonlight. He is a restless sleeper, and it turns out this is because he's actually bonded to the demon Etragon. Oh my goodness. It takes Bruce a while to figure this out though, but in the end, he is too late to save his girlfriend Glenda. Poor Glenda. The best thing he can do according to Merlin is to wipe his memory, which will also mean he has no recollection of Glenda. Oh no. Merlin claims that this will save her. Unfortunately, it doesn't, as Etragon taking over Bruce in the nighttime does end up still killing her. But hey, at least Bruce doesn't remember her, which actually seems to have been Merlin's plan all along. You see, in order to keep the demon trapped within Bruce, his forgetfulness is necessary. There is no way to save Glenda really in any case, most likely, and Merlin was just saying that to try to get Bruce to, do what he wanted him to do. But hey, at least Bruce doesn't remember her, so at least he won't be sad about it. Number 3. Brotherhood of the Bat. Have you ever wondered to yourself what the DC universe would be like if every member of the League of Assassins was dressed up and also weirdly happened to resemble Batman? No? Me neither. But too bad, because we get to know what that would be like in this Elseworlds story. I mean, not even too bad, it's kind of really great in a weird way. Brotherhood of the Bat takes place in a post-apocalyptic future where Ra's al Ghul decides that the League of Assassins, they need some new costumes. New Bat-themed costumes that all very much resemble alternative takes on Batman's outfits. Also, check out some of the notes on Ra's al Ghul's design sketches here. That is honestly my favorite part of this story. Just seeing all these, there's little notes in red. It's is this cape too much? You can never have too much cape, just so you know. Just so you know, Raish, no such thing. Number 2. Batman Nosferatu. If you want something weird in a sort of horror-based and very artistic way, we've got you. Batman Nosferatu was actually part of an Elseworlds story series that delve into the German Expressionist period. This story seems to take some inspiration from Nosferatu and the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Not only is the art style very different and unique, but the whole tone and the style of the dialogue is as well. The story has a lot going on, but mainly it follows the horrors of Dr. Arkham. To give you the briefest summary ever, because as I said, there's a lot going on in this story, it's also quite long. The story mainly centers around Dr. Arkham and his experiments and creations, including one called the Laughing Man. Oh, I wonder who that's supposed to be. A reanimated creature made from various corpse parts. In the end, Bryce Wayne's son ends up dying and is resurrected as the Nosferatu, sort of cyborg monster creature who ends up taking on and defeating the Laughing Man. I wonder who Nosferatu is supposed to stand for here. Any guesses? Number 1. Batman / Lobo. Like all of the weirdest comic stories out there across the multiverse, this one also features Lobo. Here, Joker hires the mercenary to ruin Batman's reputation and then finally kill his nemesis. Lobo sets out dressed as Batman and begins to muck up the streets, killing Batman's villains in gruesome ways to make sure that people know that Batman is no hero. He's like, what, does Batman have a no-kill policy? Pfft, not anymore. Also, the deaths have to be gruesome because this is a Lobo comic after all, so yeah, they're all pretty... There's something. I don't even know if we can show them here. In the end, the Joker is forced to call off Lobo after it's revealed that Batman is actually his long-lost twin brother, Bruce Wayne. You see, Joey and Bruce were apparently separated at a young age. I mean, does it get any weirder than this?
Number 10. Gorgon. If you remember the weirdest DC Multiverse Superheroes video, which you should check out, I talked about a pastiche of the Incredible Hulk in DC Comics called Big Baby from Earth 8. He was part of a team called the Retaliators, who were supposed to be a joke version of the Avengers. This universe also had a team of villains called the Extremists, and on that team was a Dr. Octopus type character named Gorgon. While Gorgon did utilize technological enhancements, I think his octopus likeness comes in the form of his prehensile prehensile hair. The hair tentacles he uses and his role as a scientist, mixed with his weight and oddly familiar glasses, all come together to really evoke a Dr. Octopus likeness, which is just weird enough to make me double take. He is also familiar enough that I can't really put him any higher on this list, so there's that. Number 9. Deckstar. Or Deckstar, or Dexter, or Deckstar, Deckstar. Cats can be ruthless, cold, and scary at times, I'll admit that. But while the Red Lantern of Sector 2814, Deckstar, is an irrationally rage-filled kitty, it's all because he loved his owner. Deckstar's origin shows the cat Dexter with his owner when she is attacked by robbers who broke into her home. While Dexter tried his best to scratch the attacker, he ended up ending the life of Dexter's owner. When the police showed up on the scene, Dexter was kicked out into the streets so as to not contaminate the scene. Now, 2 rascals from the streets found Dexter when he was trying to sleep, put him in a sack, and threw him into a river. Now that is one hell of a sequence of events, and all this happening filled the poor little kitty with enough rage that it caught the attention of Atrocitus, who called out to him and made him a Red Lantern. With this newfound power of the Red Lantern ring, the raged kitty exacted his sweet revenge on the hoodlums and flew to say goodbye to his owner one last time, saying, in his little cat language, "I find who hurt you, I kill. I, good kitty." I love this cat, but I also wouldn't dare mess with it. Ever. Number 8. Prez. Prez Rickard. A teenager born to literally become president. He was the youngest president ever elected thanks to the lower eligibility age in his comic book, Prez #1 in 1973. As the young president, he fought legless vampires, a right-wing militia led by the descendants of George Washington, and evil chess players. His powers include advanced hand-to-hand combat, leadership, political science, and a healthy dash of charisma. His mother, Martha, another DC Martha mom, was his vice president, with his sister becoming his secretary and his Native American friend Eagle Free being appointed as head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Honestly, a pretty strange character, but also super inspiring, especially for younger readers, I'm guessing. Number 7. Uncle Sam, the spirit of America, bound to a talisman created by the founding fathers in an occult ritual, who would take physical form by merging with a dying patriot. And he needs you and your money. Pretty please. He lives as long as America does and has taken part in every American conflict. He was the Minuteman in the Revolutionary War. In the Civil War, he split into 2, Johnny Reb and Billy Yank, and in 1870 he officially became the Uncle Sam we all know and recognize. He's fought in World War I and World War II. Unsurprisingly, Uncle Sam's powers are proportionate to the United States' faith in the ideals of liberty and freedom. And that list of powers is long, so of course I will struggle to list them all out for you. Possession, immortality, interdimensional teleportation, invulnerability, limited clairvoyance, super leaping, size alteration, superhuman reflexes, superhuman speed, superhuman stamina, and last but not least, superhuman strength. Oh, and most importantly, he can detect the whereabouts of patriotic objects like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So watch out, Nicolas Cage. Number 6. Canterbury Cricket. After The Flash rewrote history in Flashpoint, this interesting character came to be in Flashpoint The Canterbury Cricket #1 in 2011. Jeremy Cricky, not to be confused with Jiminy Cricket, I'm sure, was a university student and con man until the Amazons attacked the country of England. He takes refuge in the Canterbury Cathedral but was tracked by an Amazonian soldier. He begs for his life from God when boom chicka bow, a flash of light appears caused by boo booms dropped from the Amazon ships. And when the dust settles, Jeremy has become the giant anthropomorphized cricket. Honestly, it's kind of terrifying. He looks like the prawns from District 9. Has anyone seen that movie? Anyways, as the newly dubbed Canterbury Cricket, Jeremy had become a patriotic hero, fighting for England until his last cricket chirp. Truly the best representation of the nation. America gets Uncle Sam, England gets a cricket. Number 5. Flex Mentalo. I mentioned the Doom Patrol in the last video, but we didn't actually talk about any of their members. We honestly should. One member, who I think deserves to make it onto this list, is Flex Mentalo. Flex here has the mysterious and hilarious power of muscle mystery, which allows him to alter reality by flexing different muscles. For example, flexing his scalenus minimus, Flex has the ability to survive in the vacuum of space for an extended amount of time. His other powers include enhanced senses, mind control, precognition, reality alteration, superhuman durability, superhuman strength, and telepathy. He is a close friend of Danny the Street, who was also in the last video, and his reviews on Google note him to be sweet and helpful. He first appeared in Doom Patrol in Volume 2, number 35 in 1990, and I think my favorite piece of art is the one with the title of Hero of the Beach, with someone in the background going, it's Flex Mentalo. Number 4, Dog Welder. Now look, weird isn't always pleasant. Unfortunately, for all of us, Dog Welder is about as bad as he sounds. He's a crime fighter, yes, a do-gooder, who haunts and maims evildoers by welding no longer living dogs to them. Dog Welder is a mysterious and demented member of Section 8, a superhero team, and he first appears in Hitman number 18. He keeps his face hidden behind a welding mask, and we never learn his true identity, but he seems to live in an alleyway that he sets traps for animals in. He also seems to have an endless supply of dogs of the afterlife to stick to people's faces. Even though he is apparently a hero, I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief knowing he met his demise in Section 8's final battle, and we don't need to see him again, ever. Alright, let's move on. Number 3, Matter Eater Lad. When an alien race has all their food infected by microbes, instead of going extinct, as you might expect, they evolve to be able to eat unlimited amounts of any form of matter to survive instead. Yes, welcome to Planet Pepto-Bismol. Oh, sorry, no, just Bismol. Home to Legion of Superheroes member Tenzil Kem, better known as Matter Eater Lad. The 15th member to join the Legion, Matter Eater has an ability you just wouldn't think would be useful. But if you get stuck inside somewhere, I can guarantee you want this guy on your team. He can eat through literally anything due to digestive enzymes. Thanks to how comic books just are, this ability has become more and more useful and in very random ways. For example, Bismolians don't possess any other superpowers really, but the ability to eat tons and tons of anything and digest it in literally seconds apparently translates into food energy that can give them, oh I don't know, super speed for example, or like when he ate through a whole asteroid in minutes. I just don't want to imagine how his bathroom breaks go. No thanks. Number 2, Liesel Pond. The Green Lantern Corps, actually every Lantern Corps really, has members of all different shapes and sizes. But what utterly baffles me personally is knowing the Green Lanterns have a super intelligent, justice-seeking smallpox virus on their roster. Assigned to Section 119, Liesel wasn't really able to join the other Lanterns in team meetings on the Green Lantern world, for the same reason your boss asks you to stay home if you've got a cold. The Green Lanterns aren't trying to get sick, really. Liesel Pond's partner in Sector 119 was Remus. Because Remus was a fatal victim of Despotellus, who is also a sentient virus, but part of the Yellow Lantern Corps, so evil. Despotellus infected Guy Gardner, and wanting revenge for the attack on her sector and the loss of Remus, Liesel Pond entered into Guy, and the two battled with Liesel Pond, defeating the virus and capturing Despotellus, who Liesel brought back to Oa for the Green Lantern Corps Dr. Saranik Natu to work on a vaccine for. Number 1, Red Bee. When I think of all the animals that would make good sidekicks or super pets, bees are not my first choice. Think about it. As soon as they sting you, that's it. You need another bee to replace that one. Well, ain't it just the fitting coincidence that the trained bees used by Red Bee are a species of bee that don't die when they sting people. Not wasps though. They're bees, okay? Not wasps. Richard Raleigh, the first Red Bee, was a superhero during World War II that used a weapon that fired a sting shot. Ouch! And inside his utility belt, he carried a swarm of bees that he would use against villains. Again, someone tell Nicolas Cage to watch out. He first appeared in Hit Comics #1 in the 1940s. The second Red Bee would be his great niece, Jenna Raleigh. This Red Bee used 2 mechanical bees that fire electricity, a tech suit, and was mutated by alien insects to produce pheromones that she can use to control her bees. At least that makes more sense than training a colony of bees, right?
Number 10, Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Batman Hush. I actually really love this story, but it's also kinda out there, especially when you consider it has its own sort of theme song and a very creepy tone. In Tales from the Dark Multiverse Hush, Bruce Wayne is the one who becomes a version of the Hush character. It would be more accurate though to say that he becomes a version of Hush and Batman if they were kinda like combined together. Here, Thomas Elliot instead becomes a rich billionaire playboy and also corrupt senator, allying himself with Talia al Ghul. He manages to make it so that Bruce was locked away in Arkham Asylum. Despite feeling slightly guilty about doing this to his childhood friend, overall Elliot is pretty okay with the way Bruce is imprisoned and treated there. However, after faking his death, Bruce Wayne manages to escape Arkham and becomes Elliot's worst nightmare. And just for a fun fact, he doesn't go by Hush in this one though, he's the Silenced. Shh. Get it? Still like Hush. Number 9. JLA The Nail. This is an Elseworlds story that centers around a literal nail. The nail in question is one that punches Martha and Jonathan Kent's tire, thereby preventing them from intercepting and adopting little baby Kal-El, who would grow up to become Superman. Or at least he would have grown up to become Superman if that's what happened. In this world, instead, there is seemingly no Superman. As such, Lex Luthor is successful in making the JLA a band of outlaws. Instead of them being celebrated heroes, they're kind of considered to be somewhat criminal, despite of course their noble intentions. What I will say is at least a lot of this artwork is pretty good. Most of the limited series ends up being kinda dull, save for a few scenes and plot points. The parts that I found the most interesting were one where Selina gets therapy while sexy posing on a desk, another being a fight involving Joker with anti-grav mitts versus Batman, which takes place after Joker has successfully killed Batgirl and Robin. Batman ends up broken as a result of the Joker's actions here. We later learn that the Superman of this universe is basically a very sensitive Jimmy Olsen who is bonded with the remaining traces of Kal-El's DNA found in this crash-landed spaceship. Jimmy doesn't like it when people laugh at him. He ends up in a fight with the real Kal-El, another interesting part of the 3-issue series, who it turns out was adopted by the Amish, hence why he never became a hero, as he preferred to stay within his community. So we get an Amish Superman, and then we also get Jimmy Olsen Superman, but he's pretty much evil. Also, what is that costume he's wearing? Sorry Jimmy, I didn't mean to laugh at you. Sorry.
Number 8. The Magic Lantern. So take Shaggy from Scooby-Doo and give him the powers of Green Lantern and you've got the Magic Lantern of Earth 47. When it's groovy, when it's grim, we hum the living guru's hymn. When other lanterns lose their shit, we keep the Magic Lantern lit. I'm sure it's not the only thing that's lit. I wish I could just make this point a bunch of the stoner Green Lantern quotes. Hostility is for squares. Get with the blueprint. Are we groovy? Or do I gotta kick your non-Euclidean alien butts into the galaxy next door? The Magic Lantern is the Green Lantern to the Earth 47 Justice League, known as the Love Syndicate, whose members include Sunshine Superman, Shooting Star instead of Batman, Speed Freak, Brother Power, and the Geek. And they first appeared in Animal Man number 23, and were expanded upon in the Multiversity Guidebook. And every time I see them, I just wanna be a part of it. Number 7. Danny the Street. Yeah, no, I think this is the wildest concept for a hero I have ever heard of. In case you didn't clue in, or for that matter, actually didn't believe it, Danny the Street is a living sentient street who can teleport to any city in the world. He was first introduced in Doom Patrol Volume 2, number 35 in 1990, and his main purpose and drive in this world is to bring happiness to those who inhabit whatever city he is currently at, giving those who have nowhere to go a place to rest their heads. It's nice. He likes to cross-dress and dress himself in nice pink frilly decorations on some of his buildings, including weapon stores. He eventually became the headquarters of Doom Patrol. At one point, he grew to be Danny the World, and then he was deconstructed down to just Danny the Brick, and was even just the humble Danny the Alley at one point. Even saying that sentence makes me feel like, what am I doing with my life? I'm talking about awesome sentient streets. Mom would be proud. Number 6. David Dibble. David Dibble dibble-dabbled in some kind of dubious scientific debauchery which decidedly turned him into Dig Dabby. Turned him into Big Baby, otherwise known as Behemoth. Hailing from Earth 8, where there are characters that seem to be DC's parody for Marvel characters. As part of the Retaliators, genius alternate name for the Avengers, Behemoth is basically the Hulk, turning from a scientist into an extremely strong monster. Only the unfortunately named David Dibble, instead of turning into a green savage beast, turns into a giant blue mega baby. While he used to have a dumbed down intelligence when transformed, he has managed to recover his intelligence over time, just like how Marvel's Green Goliath did the same. The baby part of this is probably the strangest part, but it does reflect how Hulk basically acts like a tantruming toddler when he transforms. Number 5. Etragon, or Etragon, or Etragon, or Etragon. He could be considered really cool or really weird, honestly. Etragon rocketed to an Earth of eternal twilight from the doomed planet of Camelot. Who does that sound like? Maybe another hero who rocketed to Earth from another planet that starts with a K? They sound similar because Etragon is an alternate version of Superman with quote-unquote overnatural abilities. From Earth 13, a planet of the supernatural and occult. Etragon fights evil in Merlin's name alongside the League of Shadows as the Super Demon. Together, the League of Shadows faced off against against an invasion of super vampires. And later, Etragon became part of the Supermen of the multiverse, targeted by prophecy, and allies with them to come up with a plan to free the other alternate Supermen. A demon Superman is weird, but he won't be the weirdest alternate Superman to hit this list. Number 4. Yankee Poodle. I think I could effectively choose any one of the characters from the animal universe of Earthsea for this point, but of all the characters a part of the Zoo crew, Ali Cadabra, Captain Carrot, Little Cheese, none really make me say, what? Quite like Yankee Poodle. Gossip journalist Rova Barkett, an anthropomorphic poodle, see what I did there? Would moonlight as Yankee Poodle, a superhero with the powers of magnetic manipulation that for some reason allowed her to shoot semi-solidified electromagnetic blue-colored stars with her right hand, push things away, and generate red and white stripes with her left hand in order to bring things to her. I don't know. If she put these powers together though, she can generate highly destructive magnoblasts. But for me, the best use of her power is she could travel by forming a ramp of stripes in front of her while propelling herself along it by shooting stars behind her. No, I didn't make any of that up, just so we're clear on that. Number 3. Robert Rogers. This one has got a fun little twist. So, back in 2002, DC teamed up with Stan Lee of Marvel Comics fame, and together they released the Just Imagine series, which is basically, why don't we let Stan Lee come and make a bunch of characters with the ideas of DC characters? It is actually honestly a great idea. One of those characters ended up being Robert Rogers from Just Imagine Shazam #1. And yes, he is Stan Lee's Shazam. When I tell you he is absolutely nothing like the regular Shazam, I ain't kidding. I mean, other than saying Shazam to activate his powers. For starters, he is not a kid. He is actually an agent with Interpol, and he is assigned to the tough agent Carla Noral, who together go to India to hunt down criminal Gunga Khan. Secondly, he is empowered by the wizard Merlin to hunt down Morgana Le Fay. And finally, when he yells the word Shazam, he transforms into a giant, hairy, red-fanged creature with a necklace of bones. Gosh, I love Stan Lee. Number 2. Milkman Man. The DC Universe Wiki says that Milkman Man is an imperfect copy of Superman. Excuse me, DC Wiki? This is an improved copy of Superman. All that calcium, strongest bones you've ever seen, I bet. In JLA/Doom Patrol special, the Doom Patrol has discovered that an interdimensional corporation called Retco has been stealing stories, reconfiguring them, and repackaging them for new markets. Retco has embedded itself into the current continuity, using the radioactive milk of psychic cows to quell the more dangerous impulses of the Justice League and turn them into heroes safe for the masses. That is literally the quote from the official summary. I am not even joking. Milkman Man has all the same powers as the famous Kryptonian superhero, only he's a milkman, and central part of the Community League of Rhode Island, a sinister group of pleasant-spoken normal folks. Please just do yourself the favor of reading this story and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Number 1. KFC. Okay, it's weird enough that we have Colonel Sanders in the mainline continuity, but after his adversary Colonel Sanders takes the memory of all but the second of KFC's 11 herbs and spices from Sanders' brain, he is visited by Colonel Arla Sanders of Earth 11, who relays some information. 1. Apparently, every Colonel Sanders variant in the multiverse is close with the Flash of that universe, which is weird. Number 2, she remembers a different herb and or spice from the recipe, meaning every alternate Colonel will remember a different herb or spice, which is weirder. And number 3, with the help of her Flash and her cosmic treadmill, they're going across the multiverse to form the multiversal team of Colonel Sanders, which is the weirdest part. There's Colonel Gaslight, Colonel from Kingdom Come, the future Colonel Ladd, Bizarro Colonel, Teen Titans Colonel, Comrade Sanders, and a Wild West Sanders. But my absolute favorite, and one that should make absolutely no sense, and if you really think about it, is kind of sick and twisted, is the anthropomorphic Chicken Sanders from the post-apocalyptic Earth 51, whose second line is literally Bach! Appetite. What the Bach?
Number 10. Speeding Bullets. Basically a multiversal DC Elseworlds story that answers the question, what if Superman didn't just have powers but was also rich? That's basically what is going on here in Speeding Bullets. In this story, Superman wasn't raised by the Kents, but instead was taken in and adopted by the Waynes, and he becomes, you guessed it, Bruce Wayne. After the death of Thomas and Martha, Bruce becomes Batman, but the difference is this version of Batman has tech, money, smarts, and superpowers. Lex also becomes a mess of a villain in this world. While still being Superman's nemesis, he's also Batman's nemesis rolled into one, with an extra little dash of Penguin, just for good measure I guess. So here we get a villain who is Lex, Joker, and the Penguin all in one. Oh goody. Just what none of us necessarily wanted or needed. And yet, we got it. This also doesn't do much to enhance his motivation for villainy, which, like his identity, is also kind of all over the place. Still, the premise behind this Elseworlds story is pretty cool, but unfortunately it doesn't add enough when it comes to offering a twist or different perspective to either the Superman or Batman mantle. Number 9. Batman and Captain America. A gloriously weird and awesome comic. This DC multiversal story also happens to be a DC Marvel crossover issue featuring Batman, his sidekick Robin, and Captain America and his sidekick Bucky. Both Cap and Batman end up joining together and then swapping sidekicks. Their villains also seem to have a team up as Red Skull and Joker come together, but this is also the famous issue the Joker insists that Red Skull is too evil even for him. He may be a criminal lunatic, but after all, he's an American criminal lunatic, and he can't stand by when it comes to abiding by Red Skull's history and motivations. So not only do we get to see some great team-ups, but we also get to see a full-out fight break out between these two iconic villains. Thanks, John Byrne.
Number 8. Prometheus. Heroes and villains with no powers always seem to be some of the most powerful. It's strange. Take Prometheus. After seeing his criminal parents pass at the hands of police, he vows a vendetta on any form of justice. A vendetta that would push him to be able to defeat the whole Justice League single-handedly. He shot the Martian Manhunter with a dart that turned his power against him and set him on fire. He infected Steel's armor with a computer virus which commanded the suit to damage the Watchtower. He hypnotized the Huntress into unconsciousness. He attacked Green Lantern with a neural chaff that rendered his ring useless. He trapped the Angel Zariel in limbo. He tricked the Flash into believing that he had planted motion-sensitive devices that would explode if the Flash used his powers. And he defeated Batman in hand-to-hand combat. That's probably the most nuts thing on this list. His origin is very similar to Batman's. After his parents were dispatched from the mortal plane, he would travel the globe training and becoming the ultimate combat machine. But he also attended the top universities, learning as much as he could. He eventually sets up a base in the Ghost Zone, and from here, he built an armor that could download information on any opponent's fighting style, kind of reminiscent of Taskmaster's ability. He is kind of crazy capable, and his vendetta on any kind of justice plus his Batman likeness just makes him kind of a little strange to me, but also terrifying. Number 7. Earth 17 Superman. On Earth 17, superheroes are a product of government experiments. The Superman of this universe, Overman, was the first, with the other superheroes being spawns of his DNA. Now that may be weird, but that ain't the weird part. He also doesn't really seem like a villain yet, does he? Well, after contracting a disease, contracting a disease from another person, yes, like that kind of disease, he goes insane and destroys the Justice League and reduces his world to rubble. He then gets his filthy paws on a doomsday boom boom that he intends to use on Earth 17 and wipe it out. The Crisis on Infinite Earths destroyed this reality, just like DC tried to destroy such a naughty Superman story. Even having different iterations of Overmans who were different, like an Overman who became allied with the Axis powers in World War II. But the internet never forgets DC Comics, and people like me exist to remind everyone of the things you published into this world. I am sorry. Sort of. Thanks for the content. Number 6. Mr. Mixopitalic. Look, I talked about Batmite when discussing heroes, and he wasn't even really a hero. So how can I not mention the first fifth dimensional imp in this video? Plus he's got a fun name. Mr. Mixopitalic is a reality warping imp obsessed with Superman, who, just like his rival Batmite did with Batman, simply seeks to annoy the hell out of Superman and just prove he is smarter than him. Which is good, because he has a level of power that in other hands could cause the entire end of the multiverse. More on that later though. He can do almost anything imaginable if he wishes it. And his only weakness really is being convinced or tricked into saying his name backwards to send him back to the 5th dimension, which, if you're trying to say it correctly, is honestly a superpower in and of itself. Clitopizixum. Clitopizixum, I got it. Mixopitalic, Number 5, Emperor Joker. Mr. Mixopitalic has an extreme level of power, like I said. Also, like I said, if this power fell into the wrong hands, it could be potentially reality ending. Now, what hands could be worse than the psychotic hands of Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker? Well, that's exactly who gets the power in the Emperor Joker storyline. Mr. Mix gets bored and wants to give Joker 1% of his power, just to see the tricks Joker is able to pull off. But instead, the Joker tricks Mr. Mixopitalic into giving him 99.9% of his power instead. Joker uses this power to rewrite all of reality to become his sick, twisted dream world. He eats the whole population of China out of a Chinese food container box. He keeps everyone stuck in a time loop, including Batman, who he introduces to the afterlife over and over every day forever. Oh, and he also turned Flash into a slow-moving Abyss Man. Superman, the Spectre, and Mr. Mixopitalic, being the only ones who can remember the former world, tried to do something about this all-powerful Joker. But that's just the problem. He is all-powerful. He destroys all of reality, but he can't bring himself to destroy Batman fully. And because of this, he loses control of his power, allowing the Spectre and Mr. Mix to steal it back and fix all of reality. But this story it's pretty nuts. Number 4, Condiment King. When the villainous Condiment King came on the scene, it was literally on the scene, as he appeared in the animated Batman TV show from 1992. One of the best, honestly. Condiment King was Buddy Stantler, a comedian who was brainwashed by the Joker into becoming a villain who wields condiment squirters and viciously horrible puns. I knew you'd catch up to me sooner or later. How I've relished this meeting. Come, Batman, let's see if you can cut the mustard. Diabolical stuff like that. The puns get even worse in the comics, with his real name becoming a pun on its own. Mitchell Mayo. He isn't taken seriously by anyone. His weapons don't actually project his condiments at a speed fast enough to do anyone harm, but they sure are inconvenient, leaving nasty stains in your superhero costume. On the other hand, he does potentially have the ability to be able to cause anaphylactic shock if he is battling someone with an allergy, right? Number 3, Monsieur Mala and the Brain. Monsieur Mala is described in his wiki as a militant, super-intelligent French gorilla. The Brain, on the other hand, is described as a genius French scientist and master criminal who exists as a disembodied brain. So, those two descriptions are interesting enough on their own, but when I tell you the French militant gorilla and the disembodied brain are an item together, I think that just elevates the whole thing to a different level. Together, they are the primary leaders of the Brotherhood of Evil, who were villains to both the Doom Patrol and the Teen Titans. They both appeared in Doom Patrol 86 in 1964. Now, Brain was once a scientist who experimented on the gorilla who would become Mala, which would increase Mala's intelligence. An accident injured Ernst, and Mala had to remove Ernst's brain and place it in a technological holding thingamajig to keep him alive and be able to communicate. The two are almost always together, with Mala carrying around the brain. Hey, look, I don't judge. You find love where you find love, but as a concept for supervillains who lead a team of supervillains, you gotta admit it's pretty odd to say the least. Number 2, Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. Let me repeat that for all those in the back who may not have heard. Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. I don't really have a problem with 2/3 of that. I just get really hung up on the vegetable part. Is that weird? Sven Larsson is the man who claims that title. And while it is a completely ridiculous one, it is actually pretty fitting. Sven fell victim to an experiment of his own making, which allows him to transform into any animal, vegetable, or mineral, either partially or fully, although he very obviously likes to do a bit of all three at the same time, which is an odd choice, but hey, I just work here. Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man first appeared in Doom Patrol 89 in August 1964, and he is an enemy to the team, which makes sense given their weirdness. But Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man here has a vendetta against the Doom Patrol's leader, the Chief, who he believed once stole an invention of his. An invention that, funnily enough, is the only way of stopping Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. But he didn't even do that, so no. Look, it gets weirder and weirder, but I gotta move on. Before I do though, Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to get out of my system one more time. Number 1, Mr. Mind. I think anyone who hasn't heard of this villain before would be forgiven. When you think of the most fearsome villains, specifically the villains of Captain Marvel, otherwise known as Shazam, you may not first think about the 7-inch long sentient worm from Venus known as Mr. Mind. This diabolically evil mind-controlling worm, after the events of Infinite Crisis, would cocoon himself and then emerge as a massive monstrosity capable of manipulating reality, consuming universes, and traveling through time and space. He was described as eating years and events from this universe's history, altering the Earth with every flap of his wings. It took a combined effort from Booster Gold, Supernova, and Skeets to defeat Mr. Mind by trapping him inside Skeets' shell, which was fortified by the Suspendium. Then, Booster Gold threw Skeets through time with the help of Supernova to the day he was first discovered on Earth by Dr. Sivana, and then he is trapped in a time loop forever. So they didn't even actually end up ending him. They just trapped him. This all-powerful mind-controlling 7-inch long. Alright, number 10. Batmite. If you've heard of the extremely weirdly named Mr. Mixopitalic, then you have a small understanding of the reality-warping imps who inhabit the 5th dimension. This Batman megafan is basically a small childlike imp who wears a loosely fitting homemade batsuit with a black lightning bolt symbol. But don't let his goofy looks trick you. He has nearly limitless magical abilities. He's not technically a hero, but he's also definitely not strictly a villain. A being of this level of power can't really be either because there's no way it would lose in whatever it wanted to do. He idolizes Batman and just wants to see him in action. So when Batman gets angry with him for being a nuisance, he usually sets things straight and just leaves, which is honestly kind of adorable. Number 9. Dino Cop. We have a few anthropomorphized characters on this list, but none of the others are dinosaurs. Dino Cop is from Earth 41, which is an Earth containing characters who are all pastiches of heroes from Image Comics. He is Rex Stegman, a humanoid dinosaur-like character who is also a police officer, supposed to be the DC equivalent to Savage Dragon. He is absolutely dedicated to preserving the peace in his undinosaur blue-collar worker way. He teams up with another superhero from Earth 41, Spore, who is supposed to be like Spawn, but more planty. I don't think his powers really matter too much when we talk about the weirdness of this character, but they are super strength. That's kind of it. He has increased stamina and is kind of pretty intelligent, but nothing super. I think a dinosaur man hybrid police officer is weird enough to make this list on his own, so there you go. Number 8. Robin King. Probably the most depraved, psychotic, and disturbing of the Batman Who Laughs posse would have to be the Robin King. Instead of becoming Batman, this young Bruce Wayne lost his parents just like every other, only it was by his own hand. This Bruce was depraved basically from birth, so much so that it even scared his version of Alfred Pennyworth, who still continued to protect the young Wayne. After the passing of Joe Chill and Bruce's parents, the young fella found that he felt mainly cheer from all that altercation. He was inspired by a robin singing and how the bird is known for taking over the nests of other birds. Under that ideology, he began to put together an arsenal and a utility belt, which he would then use to take out police officer James Gordon and Alfred once they were able to prove that Bruce was responsible for the passing of his own parents. Robin King then stuffed the Flash's mom inside Barry's ring, he took out the Arcane family and obtained the Rot, he somehow managed to take out Swamp Thing, and he got away with it all because everyone thought he was just some kid. This guy even obtained and then modified the anti-life equation, a manhunt consisting of Adam Strange, Balloon Buster, Enemy Ace, Firestorm, Hawkgirl, and Hawkman all fell to this Robin King before he was finally recruited by the Batman Who Laughs, and he even posed some resistance to that guy. All this from an untrained Bruce Wayne. It's too much. Number 7. Dawnbreaker. Of all the Dark Knights recently introduced in Dark Knight's Metal, aside from their leader, the Dawnbreaker stands among the others as one of the most creative and possibly terrifying combinations. This blending of Bruce Wayne with Green Lantern, while based on two heroes, is definitely not a good guy. After Bruce Wayne's tragic loss of his parents, the Green Lantern ring comes to him and grants him the powers of a Green Lantern, right there in the alley. Now, if you know Batman, you'll know that he has likely one of the strongest wills on Earth, even though that's not really talked about. So strong, in fact, that it allows him to overpower the programming of the Green Lantern ring and do things that Green Lanterns are not supposed to do, like using his monstrous hard-like constructs to take down criminals permanently, or like taking out the whole Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians of the Universe. stuff like that. He is a crazy powerful version of Batman, and I think it would be really cool if someone could put him on the big screen, in a sort of superhero horror movie, or something like that. Number 6. The Drowned. Bryce Wayne was the Batwoman of the Dark Multiverse Earth 11, and this vigilante had a romantic relationship with a certain Sylvester Kyle. When Kyle lost his life to rogue metahumans, it flicked a switch inside of Bryce, and she decided to systematically take down every single metahuman she could find. The craziest thing is that she did just that, wiping out every single metahuman who walked on land. But Bryce didn't think about the metahumans of the sea. Just 18 months after taking out the last land-based metahuman, Aquawoman and the Atlanteans revealed themselves and returned to the surface from years of self-imposed exile. While they came in peace, Bryce had such a mistrust of anyone, especially these Atlanteans that were obviously also metahumans. When peace talks devolved to an all-out war, Bryce modified her human form with biochemical augmentations, like the ability to control water, breathing underwater, healing faster, and bolstering her muscular, skeletal, and bodily tissue density. She gave herself a kind of dark hydrokinesis which could corrupt those fighting against her into ravenous sea beasts under her command, and designed her own army of hybridized sea creatures called Dead Water, all of which was bolstered up by the trident that she pried from the cold hands of a completely decimated Aquawoman. She then drowned the world, and it was then that she was contacted by the Batman Who Laughs. Number 5. Cyborg Batman. Yes, there is a Batman-Cyborg hybrid who is part of the Batman Who Laughs Dark Knights, and yes, he is terrifyingly awesome. Murder Machine first appears in Dark Days the Casting in the Dark Multiverse Earth -44. In this world, this evil Batman cyborg comes about after the passing of Alfred Pennyworth in the Batcave by a group of Batman's villains. As Bruce Wayne's father figure and closest friend, Bruce took this loss hard, and he blamed himself. He asked Cyborg to make an Alfred Cyborg AI called Alfred Protocol in order to help Bruce like Alfred used to do. Unfortunately, like most AI in fiction, it went kinda mad with its directive of protecting Batman. It spread like a virus, took down all of the villains and then all of the heroes, and even took over Batman's own body since it didn't believe that he could protect himself well enough. And Batman just didn't want to be separated from Alfred, so he was totally cool with it. Number 4. Devastator. On alternate Earth -1, Batman and Superman were pals and everything was dandy. Until one day Superman changed and rampaged, turning on humanity. Superman took out almost everyone, and Batman tried his best to help bring his friend back. But once Superman took out Lois Lane and then cut off Batman's arm, there was really no going back from that point. Batman decided to inject himself with the Doomsday virus, turning him into the Devastator, powering him up enough to take out Superman but also making him lose all sympathy. He still retains all the knowledge of Bruce Wayne plus the fighting skill, and he acts as the muscle for the Dark Knights. Truly a monstrous and terrifying Batman. Number 3. Eradicator Lois. For this point, we are going back in time to the infamous death of Superman. When Superman fell in the fight between himself and Doomsday, it didn't hit anyone as hard as it hit Lois Lane. Well, in the Dark Multiverse, something curious happened. After some time passed and Lois saw the effects of a Superman-less world, she eventually traveled to the Fortress of Solitude to return Superman's cape. What she never expected was for the Kryptonian Eradicator to show up. This defender of Krypton is the reason that Superman does eventually come back, placing Clark in the Kryptonian life matrix that was supposed to revive Superman. In this story though, it takes longer than expected, and so, assuming that the revival was a failure, the Eradicator instead places the powers of Superman into the body of Lois Lane. Unfortunately, this is the Dark Multiverse though, and so this newly superpowered Lois Lane throws almost all caution to the wayside and uses her powers recklessly, saving the day, sure, but with no regard for collateral damage or repercussions. She ends wars, feeds the hungry, destroys the military-industrial complex, all that good stuff, but she also wipes out countless lives, including Batman's, and she's even responsible for the fall of Superman again when he does finally return. The whole story is pretty tragic, but that also makes it one of the best ones to come out of the Dark Multiverse, in my opinion. Number 2, the Batman Who Laughs. The Batman Who Laughs is arguably one of the most dangerous versions of Batman who has ever lived. other than Batman himself. If you don't know yet, he is a dark multiverse version of Batman who took down the Joker, but inadvertently infected himself with a strain of Joker toxin. The resulting transformation turns this version of Bruce Wayne into an amalgamation of Joker and Batman. All the intelligence and resourcefulness and martial skill of Batman mixed with the buck-wild, psychotic, murderous mind of the Joker. He is pure chaos and destruction, and he lays waste to his own Bat family and the whole Justice League. He has a pack of Jokerized Robins, and he is the leader of the Dark Knights. He is also a lieutenant of the Dark God Barbados, and he convinced Perpetua, the original creator of the multiverse, to choose him as her lieutenant, eventually acquiring cosmic power and becoming an even bigger threat than even Perpetua herself. And finally, in at number 1, it's Saint Batman. As some of you may know, when Bane broke the back of Bruce Wayne in the Batman Nightfall storyline, Bruce was briefly replaced as the Dark Knight in favor of John Paul Valley, otherwise known as the somewhat extreme crime fighter Azrael. Eventually, the status quo was returned and Bruce took the mantle of Batman back, but as you know, in the dark multiverse, everything can and will happen, and so of course, we see the dark outcome of what would happen if Bruce never got to take back his cowl. In the dark multiverse version of Batman Nightfall, John Paul Valley doesn't return the mantle, and instead, believing himself to be the best successor to the Batman name, he defeats Bruce Wayne and the entire Bat family. Over the next 30 years, John Paul, now going by Saint Batman, has destroyed and rebuilt the city of Gotham. He stripped Bruce of his arms and legs and keeps Bruce on life support, just trying to get Bruce to admit that John Paul was the right choice for the role of Batman. Unfortunately, Saint Batman had crossed the wrong people, and he suffered a pretty brutal defeat at the hands of Lady Shiva, the son of Bane, and a restored Cyborg Batman. Number 10. The Wonder Twins. Oh, super friends, sometimes you just introduce characters that are only a good idea in a kids show. Jaina and Zan are alien twin sister and brother from the planet Exor, who have these super cool sounding power rings that activate when they fist bump and say Wonder Twins power activate. It sounds so cool, and it sorta is. Jaina can turn into any animal she chooses with her power. That's neat, but it's not as spectacular for Zan, who can only turn into water in one of its forms. He can turn into H2O, steam, or ice. Honestly, I could see it being used in some pretty cool ways, which is why they are so high up on this list, but still rather unique. Number 9. Doll Man. Alright, so we take the G.I. Joe toy and Jada Pinkett Smith and we will make them superheroes. With the power to shrink down to 6 inches tall while retaining the strength of a full-grown man, Daryl Dane, Doll Man, with his partner Martha Roberts, Doll Girl, is a founding member of the Freedom Fighters. He would fight crime during the 1940s and in World War II. That was when he first appeared in All-Star Squadron No. 60 in August of 1986. More recently, the power of size manipulation had a psychological effect on him, causing him to be confined to a mental institution and then trapped in his 6-inch size with other soldiers of similar height in a miniature world. Until, get this, they fuse together as a mega monster form which just looks and sounds terrifying. Anyone ever seen Toy Soldiers? I loved that movie back in the day. I am Archer, emissary of the Gorgonites. No, I'm Adam, emissary of Top 10 Nerd. And if you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to smack that like button. It helps us know that you like us, right? I don't know. Number 8. Power Girl. There have been many versions of Supergirl throughout the years. None were remembered as fondly as Kara Zor-El, the cousin of Superman. While Kal-El was rocketed to Earth as a child from a dying Krypton, Supergirl was sent out from Argo City as a teenager. She became trapped in suspended animation until she finally arrived on Earth, where she soaked up a ton of solar radiation. Now yes, Supergirl is powerful, but there is a more powerful alternate version of her in the form of Power Girl. Power Girl has all the powers and abilities of Kryptonian and is pretty much just like Supergirl, with a major difference being she is older than her counterpart, and therefore Karen Starr, Power Girl, is far more powerful. Over the years she has evolved again and again to fit the continuity, but she's still considered one of the strongest DC superheroes. Power Girl has been able to knock out Superman in just one punch when she was needed to. She can stand up to Supergirl and even Wonder Woman in the heat of combat, and she's even been able to beat up someone as powerful as Darkseid. Number 7. Shazam. Billy Batson is just a wee lad who, thanks to the wizard Shazam, could transform into a powerful magical hero named Captain Marvel, or if you prefer, just Shazam. By saying his magic word, he gained an array of attributes including the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. Shazam has proven himself to be nearly as strong as Superman, with the two having fought to a draw many times, with Shazam actually having an edge in the form of his magical abilities. Shazam defeated foes as powerful as Black Adam multiple times and went pound for pound, shot for shot with godlike people such as Hercules and the Spectre. And that's before we even get into Jokerized Shazam or even pre-Crisis Shazam, who had basically unlimited strength. Like so much so that he pulled the Earth back into spinning again. I don't know how it stopped spinning, it seems kind of like it would be impossible, but comic books, okay? He's been shown to be as strong enough to move planets and survive nearly the same amount of stuff as Superman, so I'm gonna place him here comfortably. Number 6. Wonder Woman. Gifted with the powers of the gods, Wonder Woman has many of the same abilities Superman possesses, including strength, speed, and durability. However, Wonder Woman's Amazonian training sets her a little apart as an amazing warrior. It's been debated for years whether Diana could beat Superman in a fight, and while she's shown to be capable of hurting him at the least, she doesn't have the same raw amount of power. Instead, Wonder Woman dominates her opponents through a combination of her special abilities, superior tactics, and special equipment given to her by the gods. But she has been elevated beyond this. When Diana was empowered with the World Forge and the anti-crisis energy at the end of Doom War / during Death Metal, she had enough power to shake stars and phase throughout time through sheer strength. She had displayed the ability to shrink an entire planet and was able to link everyone together and restored their memories as one history, as in all of DC's continuity. She has cosmic awareness, she's able to see multiple events during the war against the Batman who laughs at once, as well as precognition and retrocognition. She was crazy powerful for that time. Number 5. Superman Prime. The Kal-El, who lived to the 853rd century, survived as long as he did by literally becoming the living extension of the sun. He left the Earth somewhere in the late 21st century when everyone he cared about died, and traversed the entire DC multiverse going beyond time and space, and has been said to have reached as far as heaven and hell themselves. He was created by Grant Morrison and Val Semeiks and first appeared in DC 1,000,000 number 4 in 1998. Now, this version of Superman has pretty much all of the same general powers of his normal self, only Superman Prime remained in Earth's sun for 15,000 years, increasing his abilities to immeasurable levels. He is known to dwarf the might of even the massively powerful Kal Kent, who is himself more powerful than the gravitational pull of a collapsing star and is multiple times faster than the speed of light. But he is still kinda just Superman who can do a hell of a lot by just strengthening the heck out of it. Number 4. Elaine Bellock. Bet you weren't expecting to see this girl here. But Elaine Bellock is the successor to the throne of heaven, and that's quite something in my opinion. Elaine has got the powers of atomic manipulation, magic, immortality, omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. While you may not expect it, she is one of the strongest inhabitants of the DC universe. Compared to other characters on this list, Elaine is a newer addition to the DC canon as she first appeared in Lucifer number 4 in September of 2000. But despite that, she has quickly climbed the ranks of DC's most formidable characters, and that's before she gains even more power after Fenrir the Wolf de-lifes her father, effectively making her the ruler of heaven after the presence departs. Since she isn't really a hero and is more kind of just like both good and bad, she does align good more than not, and I found it kinda hard to find a proper place to put her on this list, so I'm gonna go with 4, and we'll suffer the consequences of my decision. Number 3. Captain Atom. Nathaniel Atom was transformed into Captain Atom in the 60s after being semi-forced to participate in a potentially fatal experiment sitting at ground zero of a nuclear explosion encased in an alien metal. The explosion didn't kill him though. What it did do was bond the alien metal to his flesh, giving him superpowers and throwing him 20 so years forward into the present day. The alien metal gave him incredible abilities such as flight, matter manipulation, energy manipulation, time manipulation, energy absorption, telepathy, spatial manipulation, quantum manipulation, force field creation, time travel, magic, and mind manipulation, and control of the quantum field. These powers have let him perform some insane feats, like creating a universe within the quantum field and later destroying that universe. fighting Superboy Prime, easily defeating a team composed of multiple versions of Atom, before absorbing them and creating an explosion powerful enough to destroy a universal space-time continuum. He is truly an insanely strong being, and I would be ashamed to not include him on this list. Number 2. The Spectre. One of the most powerful beings in the DC universe is the Spectre. He is the biblical god spirit of vengeance. He blesses whoever his host is with nearly unlimited magical potential, flight, invisibility, and intangibility. The Spectre can inflict death with a glance, revive dead men, materialize in multiple locations simultaneously. He has molecular reconstruction. He can heal wounds with a touch and can teleport as well as alter his size, implying he has matter manipulation abilities. The power of the Spectre is so great it needs a human host to keep him in check, which doesn't really make sense. Jim Corrigan, Hal Jordan, and Crispus Allen have each taken control of the spirit of vengeance in order to enact their own versions of justice onto the world. One of the Spectre's most impressive physical feats is the fact he could engage the Anti-Monitor in hand-to-hand combat for control of all creation. It's hard to find heroes more powerful than the Spectre, but there is one. Number 1. Dr. Manhattan. When I began to look up just what John Osterman, otherwise known as Dr. Manhattan's powers and feats were, well, the list could kinda take up nearly half the length of this video. So let's go through some of them, shall we? After he was destroyed and reconstituted from the atomic experiment gone wrong, John has no need for food, sleep, or oxygen, and no longer ages and can regenerate from any injury. He has nigh omniscience and possesses an understanding of the workings of the universe on a cosmic scale. He has reality warping and matter manipulation powers, allowing him to end literally everything, which he foresaw himself doing, so he obviously has precognition even as far as a millennium, and can even see alternate futures. He has causality and time manipulation, which allowed him to return the metaverse to how it was before his interference and remove 10 years from the universe's timeline, creating the New 52. He obviously has time travel, which he's used to travel back in time and save Jor-El right before Krypton's destruction. John experiences all the reboots in DC continuity, and yet he remains unaffected, and additionally, John exists in every timeline all at once, meaning that he has duplication and dimensional travel abilities as well. He possesses elemental manipulation, creating a ring of blue fire, producing an oxygen field, creating water, and producing electricity. Saying he has enhanced senses is kind of an understatement, as he can read atoms, sense tachyons, knew someone didn't have cancer with a glance, and heard a heartbeat from someone else's womb. He can phase through things, create human life, made plants grow, teleports an entire crowd of people away. He has instantly analyzed and learned magic after being attacked with it, and absorbed energy from a Green Lantern ring and absorbed magical attacks. Dr. Manhattan is more than a god. Starting off the list today at number 10 is Red Death. The Dark Multiverse was given to us largely by telling the story of multiple different versions of Batman who have each been twisted into a corrupted, villainous version of Bruce Wayne. Brought together by the Batman Who Laughs, the Dark Knights are basically like an evil collection of Batman from across the Dark Multiverse, each one standing in or representing a member of the Justice League. Arguably one of the most popular of these Batmen would be Red Death, an evil Bruce Wayne with the powers of the Flash. In his dark reality, Bruce Wayne was pushed to the limit after losing so many of his sidekicks, which should be a good reason for why he should stop recruiting younglings to be his Robins, but I digress. Believing that he needed to be more brutal in his crime fighting, and that he would be better at using the Speed Force than Barry Allen, Bruce took down Flash's rogues, took their equipment, and then used it against his fellow Justice Leaguer. Batman then strapped Barry to his Batmobile, fused it together with the Cosmic Treadmill, and then he drove it all into the Speed Force, absorbing Barry and his powers. Bruce, now empowered with the Speed Force and much more evil than he should be, became the Red Death and joined with the Batman Who Laughs and his Dark Knights. Number 9. Last Son. While the majority of characters given to us from DC's Dark Multiverse are alternates of Batman, thanks to the Batman Who Laughs and his Dark Knights, the Dark Multiverse is a place where everything can go wrong with anyone. Probably the most alarming of the Dark Multiverse alternates would be the dark versions of Superman, and the Last Son, in my mind, stands above the rest. This version of Kal-El came from a dark universe corrupted by the Darkest Night, and instead of crash landing straight on Earth from the destruction of Krypton, Superman's rocket got lost and exposed to the cosmic storm of a black hole. When he finally reached his destination, Earth, the last sun of Krypton was burning with the energy of 1,000,000 suns. It sounds super cool, and Last Sun looks absolutely amazing, but his whole concept is based on Superman's fear of becoming overcharged by the sun, and his capabilities are through the roof. He's terrifying.
Number 8. Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Wonder Woman, War of the Gods. I don't even know what to really make of this multiversal story. All I can tell you is buckle in, because this Dark Multiverse story is, yeah, dark. To be fair to this one shot though, I don't really even know what to make of the War of the Gods story in the main continuity, which I also found a little confusing, so it makes sense that this is where I would be as well with the Dark Multiverse version. A little confused. In this story, the Amazons of Themyscira end up in a war with the United States. When Diana is pulled into a battle with Hecate as a result of these events, where in the main continuity Hecate was defeated by Wonder Woman's lasso of truth, here she just ends up planting a seed within Diana's mind. Diana defeats her, but only temporarily. Following the death of Hippolyta, her mother, Diana is left weak, fearful, alone, and resentful, and this is when Hecate is able to take over. Unable to free her, all of Wonder Woman's friends die trying to. The only way to contain Hecate Wonder Woman is with magic, and many of her magical colleagues actually die in the attempt to do so. Hecate as such ends up chained, but of course so is Diana, unable to find the hope to escape her own internal prison. Of course, like most dark multiversal tales, we end on a pretty dark and tragic note. But that's okay, Zatanna's never gonna give up. Number 7. JLA Act of God. Admittedly, this is a cool premise, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, which is what's weird about it. In JLA Act of God, an Elseworlds 3-issue miniseries, we get to explore a world where all the heroes of Earth have simultaneously lost their powers. Well, at least almost all of them anyways. How did this happen? Black light? Somehow the world being hit with a flash of black light results in almost everyone losing their powers. I guess normally superheroes don't go to raves or anything, where black light is, I feel like, very common. Although this is attributed to the black light, some might call it an act of God. A later on, very suddenly, devoutly Christian Diana Prince at least would probably claim that. Diana, haven't you met gods? How does that make sense? What's really ridiculous is in the first issue, as we go through the moment this happened, the world over, we get to see just how diverse not only everyone's powers are, but also when it comes to the source of their powers, just how diverse it is. In one page we go from Steel losing complete control of his systems and suit as he plummets to his doom, to Aquaman losing his ability to connect with the creatures of the sea telepathically and his ability to breathe underwater. At the same time, Kyle Rayner also has lost control of his Green Lantern ring, which seems to now just be, I guess, a really unique and trendy looking accessory. How could a flash of black light affect almost everyone in this same way? Like I said, it's a cool premise, kinda wonky execution though. How is Steel affected by this? Didn't Steel make his suit? I'm confused. Number 6. Facets. What happens when we get to see the Teen Titans as they'd be in a fantasy setting? Well, a whole lot of weirdness. Raven of course ends up evil, known as a deadly and beautiful sorceress, Queen Raven. She creates her own loyal servant and accomplice with Victor Stone, or at least she tries to, transforming him permanently into a cyborg. It turns out this isn't all that Raven's been up to though. She has a whole collection of prisoners whom she has transformed in some way, and when Cyborg refuses to join her, she also contemplates holding him there with the rest of them. So apparently she does this a lot. Seems like her deals with people don't usually work out. I guess she's just hoping that one day that'll change. She's like, I'll just keep doing it. Eventually someone will be loyal to me. If I try it enough times, it's gotta work. In this story, Coriander is a prisoner of some goblin mages who use cosmic energy to transform her into Starfire. The comic features an all-out battle between Raven and Starfire, joined of course by the rest of the Titans. Nightwing goes on a trip inside Phantasm's cloak, literally looks like he's tripping out, and eventually Trigon joins the party when he is summoned by his daughter Raven. You can check it all out in the 1994 New Titans Annual. It's weird. It's definitely weird. Also, some of these outfits are Interesting. Number 5. Superman at Earth's End. I don't even know where to begin with this comic. Oh boy. Okay, so Superman here is one of the first iterations of course, the old man heroes to come that we've come to love so much. See, before there was Old Man Logan, there was Old Man Supes. In this Elseworlds story, we are in a post-apocalyptic future where machines rule supreme and mutants basically run amok. Also, there is an army of Batmen and vicious biker gangs because, I mean, why not? The year I believe is 2102, so possibly this is what we'll be dealing with in just over 80 years time. Honestly, the way things are going, I could maybe see that being our future. Superman is recharging and recuperating his strength when he hears about the plan to nuke Gotham City. He aims to save the city, but of course without doing any killing, because you know, he's Superman. And of course, no guns, because he's Superman. Except for the part where he uses guns to kill people. Except for that part. Mostly Robo and really bad people though, so I guess for Supes it doesn't count. It features the famous "I am a man" memeable moment, which actually was shouted in response to an android, by the way, so out of context it's really weird, but within context it actually like kinda makes some sense. It's still pretty weird, but it's not as weird. Also, shortly after claiming that he doesn't need weapons, Superman chooses to wield a ridiculous megagun known as the Expunger. It's crazy. I just love that he's like, I don't need weapons because I have powers. I would never do that. And then like flip to like 2 pages later and he's like, look at this giant expunger, I'm gonna use this mega gun. Number 4, All-Star Batman and Robin. Not so much a story as a full series, but I have other full series on this list, so it's fine. All-Star Batman and Robin consists of 10 issues, all of which are pretty weird when it comes to the depiction and characterization of a lot of our favorite superheroes, villains, and their allies even. Once again, we get a super jacked version of Joker in this comic. We also get a version of Vicky Vale who seems far more obsessed with Superman's manhood and dates with Bruce Wayne than any kind of serious reporting. And of course, then there are Batman and Robin. What a dynamic. Batman in this comic is the worst kind of hero, an entitled one. This is the version who refers to himself as the goddamn Batman and makes Dick eat rats and sleep in the Batcave initially. Because he's Batman and he can do that. He also torments Hal Jordan Green Lantern by painting himself, Robin, and the entire room and corridor yellow, and also serves and consumes yellow food and drink around him, with Batman enjoying some lemonade and Robin devouring what appears to be an all yellow ice cream cone. All-Star Batman and Robin has to be one of the weirdest multiverses out there. And every time I go back to it, I'm like, what is happening? What is this characterization? Number 3, JLA created equal. Okay, so All-Star Batman and Robin is the not so great kind of weird, but JLA created equal is just the weird kind of weird. In this 2-part Elseworlds story, we get a glimpse into a world where all the men, or almost all the men, were killed off by an unexpected and sudden plague. The only 2 left alive are Superman and Lex Luthor in this reality, and yet for all the powerful women who remain, this book sure manages to still be about the male characters within it. In Created Equal, Superman attempts to help the rest of the new, almost all-female JLA figure out a way to repopulate the Earth. I say almost because Superman's still there, so yeah. The main concern is how to ensure the survival of the human male gender, as if they made clones with their technology and resources, they'd actually only be able to produce female ones. I guess they can't like tamper with the genes, they can't like tamper with the DNA, or I don't know how you make clones anyway, so I probably shouldn't tell other people how to do it. Eventually, Lois Lane and Clark Kent end up conceiving a son who is born and named Adam. He accidentally hugs his mother to death, and then Lex, being Lex, unleashes a plan to take control of all the young men who were created and raised on Themyscira, thanks to Adam's existence and his resilience. Also, he makes them all bald, because this is Lex Luthor, so yeah. Oh, what a weird story. Come and join me, and also I'll be bald, because you all have lovely hair and it offends me. Number 2, a Batman Reptilian. Ah yes, the story of an alien baby that belongs to Killer Croc because he was influenced by aliens while inside his mother's womb, which is how he's even mutated and also makes him like, I guess, a hybrid alien-human creation technically. In this beautiful yet bizarre story, Batman is attempting to track down whoever is killing all of his rogues. What he finds out though is that it isn't any one of the other villains, but Croc's baby that he just just gave birth to. Killer Croc, of course, didn't know that he could do that. I mean, neither did we. It turns out that this is a result of him being part alien in origin, or being tampered with by aliens when he was like a fetus. The newborn babe, it turns out, just wants its mama, but for what purpose remains to be seen. Killer Croc can't nurture it, as you know, he doesn't have like the biological equipment for that. After we get through that whole slog of that's not gonna work, it's also implied that the giant alien monster baby wants Croc to mate with it, which is also thankfully out of the question when it comes to Croc's willingness, so thank goodness, because I thought this better not be where this is going. Oh my goodness. Did I mention that Batman is also a huge jerk throughout this entire series? Cause yeah, this is Garth Ennis behind the writing wheel, and that is very much a thing. Which I'm not surprised by. That's kind of Ennis' whole thing, so yeah. I actually like Batman being a butt in that story more than I like him being a butt in Frank Miller's All-Star, so yeah. Number 1. Batman Last Night on Earth. This one was where the thumb came from in part 1 of this list. I had intended to actually include this story there, but then I got distracted by the Batman and Lobo crossover. Understandably so, I think, because that's also super weird. But that's fine, because it just means that Last Night on Earth gets a higher spot on this list of bizarre multiversal DC stories. Batman Last Night on Earth is a book that exists outside of the continuity and belongs to the DC Black Label line. Also, Reptilian is part of that same line, just so you know. Black Label primarily is made up of titles that are more adult in terms of their content and their themes. Here, that translates to Batman wearing a straitjacket version of his suit in a post-apocalyptic future, where Joker is just a head in a jar. They also end up fighting giant monster baby Green Lantern constructs in issue number 1, just to give you a sense of the level of weird that we're dealing with here. But it's like a fun weird. It's like a, I'd recommend this weird. I give it 2 weird thumbs up.